You want to introduce Jana for us?
Yes, I am very excited to bring Jana Carlson to us. As a matter of fact, we have Ashley Radcliffe to thank for that. I don't know if she's here today. Let's see, maybe get the whole gallery view. I can't see everyone for some reason. Gallery. Oh, maybe I need to go full screen. Ooh, wow. We have a lot of people today. Okay, so I'm very excited. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look like Ashley Radcliffe made it to this meeting, but she'll watch the recording later. But she suggested Jana Carlson, and I'm really, truly grateful to her for that. Jana comes to us all the way from Spain, her recent move from the United States to Spain. And she is a piano teacher and a web designer. I mean, I think that's a wonderful twofold thing to have under her belt there. She and her husband they co-own Studio Rocket Web Design, and she is actually a classically trained pianist. And her husband is a rock and roll guitarist, as she puts it here in her bio here. And I was really excited about this particular topic. As in the new program chair, I wanted to bring something that had to do with website building to our program this year because, for one, I don't have a website and I've always thought about having one. And I would like to know, the kinds of things that we can go on it. But I think there's many of us who either have thought about having a website or have one and then would like to make it better. So, Jana, we're so happy to have you. Thank you so much. We'll let you take it from here. And I think we're making Jana co-host. Have we already done that?
You have.
Yes. Okay, great.
Thank you, Miriam. Thanks for inviting me. And thank you to everyone here who contributed questions in the survey that I shared. That was really helpful as I was kind of creating a presentation and trying to decide what would be most helpful to your group. I met Ashley several years ago. We built her website, in 2019 or 2020. And she was just a delight to work with, of course, as you can imagine. And so when she reached out last spring, I said, absolutely, I would love to speak with your group. I am going to share my screen with you. And while I do that, I want to say I want to join your primetime event and jump in on that 2 piano 4 player action. That sounds like so much fun. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? Okay, great. And everyone can hear me without a problem. I'm gonna move this down a bit. Okay, let's see. Give me just a second. I'm gonna try to arrange my window a little bit better. Okay. So yes, my name is Jana Carlson, and you can see my husband Jeremy with me. He is the rock and roll musician. I am the classically trained musician. I've been a piano teacher for about 25 years now, and Jeremy is a trained audio engineer. And we have always, actually Jeremy has always talked about ways that we could potentially work together. And a little over 5 years ago, we realized, there's really a need for help for music teachers with their studio websites. And I had built mine several times on my own. I built my first studio website 10 years ago this year. And it proved to be my most powerful marketing tool. It kept my studio full. It helped me when I wanted to grow significantly. I really leaned hard on it over the years. And I can't imagine having kept a thriving studio without it. And so we jumped into web design with other music teachers, and I kept a blog, and we have been honored to work with teachers like Leila Viss and Dorla Aparicio, Julie Duda. We have helped them set up stores and blogs, and it has been a really exciting ride. And we now work with all kinds of small business owners, but I still have a foot in the music teaching community, and I love it. I have a handful of piano students still who I teach online every week. We're actually in Portugal, so right next door to Spain, the same peninsula, Iberian Peninsula. We're going to visit Spain for the first time next month. But I am thrilled to pieces that I'm able to continue to work with my students on the East Coast, thanks to technology. Okay, so let's see. Today, I thought it would be, oh, hang on just a second. Okay, there we go. I have to figure out how to work my controls on both screens. Today, I want to help to demystify your studio website. We are first artists and educators and not first tech wizards, right? And website technology can quickly feel really overwhelming. And if you've ever attempted to build your own website, if you've ever succeeded at building your own website, you know firsthand how much work goes into it and how overwhelming it can feel. So I'm hoping that by the end of today, it feels a little less overwhelming and that you feel inspired to do something to improve your presence online, whether that is working on your existing website or looking into options for building a new website if you don't have one yet. I want to try to inspire you to dive in and then use your website to support your studio. So I want to talk about, first of all, 3 ways that your studio website can make your life easier as a music teacher. Second, we're gonna have a quick overview of website terminology. Some of the terms that are thrown around websites are a little bit confusing, and we'll break those down quickly. Third, we're going to talk about what a great studio website must have, what makes a really great studio website that supports you well. Fourth, we're going to talk about what your options are for getting a studio website if you don't already have one. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about how to be found online. So you've probably heard the term SEO, search engine optimization, and I want to demystify that because that can be really overwhelming for us as teachers. Okay, so first of all, we're going to talk about 3 ways your studio website can make your life easier and support your studio. I'm going to share some examples of websites that we've built for other music teachers as hopefully an inspiration for you. Feel free to jot down information about these websites so you can go and explore them on your own later. A little gentle reminder to borrow inspiration and not actual content. And we always want to respect each other's intellectual property. So let's talk about 3 ways your studio website can make your life easier. A good studio website can, first and foremost, help you get more students. And this is probably most teachers' primary goal in having a website. And there's a really good reason for that. Because unlike running Facebook ads or Google ads or putting flyers in mailboxes, a website doesn't go away. A website is a long-term marketing strategy. And the longer you have it and the more visitors arrive at your website, the more Google will start to show your website to future visitors, to future potential visitors. And so it's not just a good long-term marketing strategy, it's a marketing tool that grows, that will work more effectively for you the longer you use it. So it's a really great investment if you ever have felt that fatigue from constantly trying to get new students, or that concern about what happens in a few years as the parents coming along are younger and younger, and I'm not using TikTok, and I'm saying that personally, I'm not using TikTok. There is a limit to what I'm willing to learn, to put myself through, but a website is here to stay, right? A website is something that will continue to bring me students for the long term and not require my constant effort. It establishes credibility with parents. So when they arrive at your website, they can immediately get a sense of your studio, what makes it unique, your teaching style, the energy, and that establishes credibility and trust with a parent in a very powerful way. Your website is also a great way to educate parents. I don't know if you've ever thought about trying a new activity that you're not familiar with. Like, I would think of maybe going to a yoga studio and taking a yoga class for the first time or something like that. And thinking of the questions that I would have, like, do I bring my own mat or do they provide a mat for me? What do I wear to a yoga class? Do I keep my shoes on? And is that even sanitary to go barefoot in a yoga studio? I don't know. And I might be a little bit embarrassed to ask these questions of the instructor. I might feel like I kind of should know these things, but I don't. Parents feel often the same way about music lessons. Unless they had music lessons as a child, there's a good chance that they don't understand the basics of how music lessons work. And I've had a surprising number of parents, when it comes right down to it, not even know if they need a piano at home to take piano lessons. And to me, that is a no-brainer. Everyone knows you need a piano in order to take piano lessons. It's not the case. But that's a question that a parent might feel embarrassed to ask. And so your website is such a great place to share common questions and answers with parents who might not understand how lessons work. And then you don't have to go through that back and forth in your email with parents asking question after question prior to enrolling. And then finally, as I briefly mentioned before, your website helps you get more students through local searches. So a parent jumps onto their computer, they want to find lessons for their child, they type into Google or their search engine of choice, piano lessons near me or piano lessons Springfield. And Google combs the internet for the websites that would most closely match that parent's search. And if your website has been optimized to connect with Google over those words, then Google is more likely to show your website to that parent. And that is a very powerful tool because that parent already knows they want lessons for their child. The second thing a good studio website can do for you is make enrollment simpler. I don't know if you've experienced this, but before I had my website optimized to do this, I felt like I emailed back and forth with a parent 18 times about the ins and outs of lessons, how they worked, setting up our trial lesson, sharing the policy with them, scheduling their lesson time. The email back and forth was endless. And of course, there's some good communication that happens before you start to work with a new student, but your website can make the enrollment process so much simpler and free up a lot of your time in that enrollment process. And finally, a good studio website can be a resource hub for studio families. You can help your families feel supported while significantly reducing your admin time. Even if that's as simple as having your studio calendar and your studio policy linked to your website so that each semester or each year, a parent can go to your website and download those documents easily to their computer. Again, it's going to cut out your emailing time, right? They're not going to be emailing you twice a semester saying, when are tuition dates again? Or when is the spring recital again? Because they've come to understand that your website provides that information for them. Okay, let's talk about some website terms to know. The first one we're going to talk about is navigation, and I'm actually going to explain that here on this screen because this is a great example of this. And I love Laura's living room. I would love to teach in her space. I love her colors. It's so vibrant. But you can see at the top of the page how Laura has her studio name here and then her page is over here. And this is her navigation. So navigation on your website is how parents navigate through your website. And it might be buttons and links. It might be a link in the footer to get to, for example, your current student page or your contact page. But the primary place for navigation is your navigation bar at the top of your website. So it's this right up here. Okay, let's look at some more terms. So you've got navigation, then your domain name. So this is where things can get a little confusing. What's a URL and what's a web address and what's a domain name? So a domain name is the essential part of the address of your website. So for example, mypianostudio.com is your domain name. Your web address or your URL is the full string of characters that goes into that address field. So it would be https://www.mypianostudio.com. The URL or web address is the whole string of characters. The domain name is just that essential part that is unique to you. Your domain host is where you purchased your domain name. So it might be GoDaddy, it might be SiteGround, it might be another place completely where you purchased the right to use that domain name and you pay a fee every year to keep that domain. That is your domain host. It is separate usually from your website host. Your website host or your website platform is where your website lives. So your website might be on Wix or on Weebly, on WordPress or on Squarespace. Those are website hosts or website platforms. And they can be separate from your domain host because you can connect your domain name to a website on a completely different platform. Search engine optimization, or SEO, we've already talked about just briefly, and we'll talk about it more in a few minutes. It is the pieces of information that Google sees on your website that helps it to identify what your website is about. And that allows Google to know that your website is a good option to show to parents who have just typed in piano lessons near me or piano lessons Springfield. You can increase your SEO, you can improve your SEO by paying attention to specific parts of your website and making sure that they are kind of checking boxes, because that helps Google to identify your website more accurately. So, for example, you might not just be a music education website, you might be a piano lesson website for preschoolers in Springfield, right? You want Google to know that about you, not just that you're a music education website. Finally, a CTA is a call to action. And that is anything on your website that asks parents to take an action. So if you have a button that says enroll now or join us, or a link that says find more information here, that is a CTA. You are calling parents to take an action. And that's super important. It's an easy thing to overlook, especially when you're building your own website, because you're very focused on the important things like the images and the copy, what you're saying and how people enroll. And it's easy to miss the fact that parents don't have a lot of time to figure things out, and they want something that's really clear. We'll talk a lot more about this in a minute, but having call to action buttons right there on your homepage and on every page is super important to actually getting parents to act, to getting them to reach out to you and get started with lessons. Okay, let's talk about what a great studio website must have. There are 3 basic ingredients to a really great studio website. And I'm going to show you examples for each of these, and then we're going to talk about a bonus ingredient that I think is super essential for a music teacher, but it is up to you and it has to do with your goals. So the first thing that a website must have to be a great studio website and work well for you is a clear welcome. You want your homepage to make it obvious what it is that you offer to families and what it is that makes your studio unique. I am going to share a different screen with you. Pardon me while I bounce back and forth a bit. Okay. So this is Megan. She is a piano teacher in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and she focuses particularly on working with students who have learning differences. And when she came to us for her website, she really wanted parents to know that her studio was a safe and comfortable place for students to play music no matter what their learning abilities were. And so she focused her copy on this. She focuses her images on a really inviting atmosphere in her studio, and it comes through really well. You can see she is a lovely person. She's very kind and caring. So you can see it just even before we scroll down. And by the way, here's another website term for you. What you can see right here is called above the fold. It's the most important real estate on your website. It's your first impression. And so 15 or 20 years ago, your first impression was when you open the door to your studio and greet a parent, right? Not anymore. This is now your first impression. And you just have a couple of seconds to show parents, this is what my studio is. You get to open the door to them and let them see. So you want to use your very best images, your very clearest image that shows the vibrancy of your studio. And the goal is to get parents to scroll through your website and then take action. So if I scroll down here on Megan's website, you can see that her copy says, welcome to our piano lesson studio where you feel supported and comfortable as you learn to play music you love. Further on, she says, we celebrate the fact that your best looks different from anyone else's. So a parent, if I am a parent and I have a child who struggles a bit in school with their attention, or they are autistic, this already feels like maybe it might be a good option for my student, for my child, and it's going to be different from other studios in the area. So you can see this super cute picture of a child at the piano, and right here, boom, you've got your first call to action, join us, big yellow button. Then she talks about the performing opportunities that her studio has, and she does a great job of presenting that in a from a perspective of sharing music rather than performance. So that is her approach to performance, is giving her students the opportunity to share their music. And then you keep scrolling and it says, let's find your perfect lesson match. Megan has a couple of other teachers who work with her, and she's got lesson options here. So this is a great example of a super welcoming homepage. Let's see. Okay, the second ingredient in a great studio website is a clear path. It's an easy way for parents to get from first impression to learning more and reaching out. So a clear welcome is a great start, but then you want to make it easy for parents to find more information. So rather than having a large collection of pages that have FAQs and about and programs and studio events, and a parent looks and is like, I don't know where to go to find information, and I only have 3 minutes because I have a toddler pulling on my jacket wanting dinner, and I have a third grader who needs help with their homework. Make it really obvious for a parent. Assume that they only have 3 minutes to spend on your website, and give them a really clear path. So we are going to go back to another website. Let's see. Okay. Argo Music Studio is Anna. She was in South Carolina for a long time with a thriving studio, and then she married a German man and moved to Switzerland with him. And she wanted to start teaching after a while, and she was starting from scratch, and she was reaching out to new families in her community in her small town in Switzerland. And she offers both, as you can see up here, piano and violin lessons. And what I like about how Anna organized her website is how easy it is to find information and move through the site. So right away, you can see she's got this big pink Get Started button up at the top. But then you can see she offers piano and violin, and you can read about both of them. Then she's got an FAQ page. She's got a page about her, and then a contact page. That's it, clean and simple. And right away, it feels easy, right? Starting piano or violin lessons is easy. You scroll down a little bit more, and you've got another big pink Get Started button. So a busy parent does not have to stop and read every word of this if they don't want to. They can figure out how to get started. They have a sense of Anna's calm, inviting aesthetic, and they're ready to move forward. Then she talks a little bit about specifically piano lessons, and here's a button to go to learn more about those. You keep scrolling and you find a little bit about violin lessons. You can learn more about those. And then she's got one more Get Started button here. So really great, clear path for parents. Okay. The third ingredient is a clear call to action. So it's great to present parents with a good picture of your studio, a good impression, answer their questions, but they need to see right away how to join you. If they're not sure and they need to kind of bookmark it and come back later after they make dinner, then the chances of them reaching out soon get smaller, right? You want to make it easy for them to take action as soon as they see that your studio is special. So a simple 1, 2, 3 style process for parents to get started with lessons is the goal. All right, we're going to jump back to another website. Okay, this is Valerie McEnroy. She is in Corpus Christi, Texas, and she's got a bustling, thriving studio. And you can see up at the top of her page, she's got Get Started right here. And she's got this drop-down menu where she splits, because she works with both kids and adults. She wants to make it really clear where you should go if you have a child or if you are an adult student. So you can read more here about piano lessons for kids or adults, or right there you can grab an introductory lesson. If you scroll further down the page, her buttons say ready to start. It doesn't really get much clearer than that. It's great, good language. And then ready to start for adult lessons. Here, get my intro lesson now. She cuts straight to it. She even has a send us a text button in her footer. And she absolutely knows what parents want to be able to do. That's not everyone's choice, but if it works for you, that's a great option to have. So if we click Get My Intro Lesson Now, she invites us to schedule our first piano lesson. And what I love here is that in this paragraph, she eliminates like 2 email cycles right here. So before joining the studio, prospective students must come in for a 30-minute introductory lesson. It's an opportunity to meet the teacher, see the studio, make sure we're a good fit. If you have prior piano experience, bring your current materials with you. So easy. She just eliminated, like I said, several emails and lets you know exactly what to expect to take to join her studio. And then you can book an introductory lesson for adults or for kids. And she uses Acuity. So a lot of folks use My Music Staff that embeds on a website really nicely. Acuity is another great option, and she charges for an introductory lesson. Okay. All right, finally, bonus element of a really great studio website is a central place for studio family resources. This is a super flexible option. So it can be as simple as just sharing your annual studio calendar and policy that parents can download. And anytime a parent says, hey, where are those dates? Send them to your website. Once they get used to going to your website for things, they'll just know to do that without asking, and you'll never hear from them about it. So you can do that. Jonathan, your timing with flipped lessons was awesome, because this is also a great way to share flipped lesson material, especially if you can password protect a page on your website and you have levels of students where it would be appropriate to create an instructional video of some kind. It could be a music history topic, or it could be a particular piece, like Jonathan was saying. You upload that video to YouTube or Vimeo and then put it in your website in your families only area, and your families will get used to going to that website page for those resources. You can kind of train them to see your website as a support system for them in lessons at home. It's very powerful. It takes a little bit of practice, and when you're first setting things up, it's a great idea to be super available in case people have difficulties accessing things. But once you have established this as normal and routine, it will save you so much time. And like Jonathan was saying, free up lesson time to focus on other things. Jeremy and I, before moving to Portugal last year, the previous year, we spent 2 months traveling in Portugal, just making sure that this was the right decision for us. And because of the timing with countries reopening with COVID and all of that, we ended up having to go right at the start of the studio year. 2 months traveling. And even though my lessons were online, I knew it was just unrealistic to continue a teaching schedule while I was traveling abroad. And at the same time, I didn't want to leave my students high and dry. And so I took the flipped lesson concept a little bit farther. And I created an online clubhouse for my students and continued their lessons virtually for 2 months. They never saw me. I recorded a bunch of material in the spring leading up to that, instructional videos for each level that I teach. I gathered a bunch of studio licensed music that they could download and print from composers like Daniel McFarlane. I had practice charts in Google Docs that I linked. Leela Viss talks a lot about digital badge boards. They are a great resource virtually. I linked one of those. We had family music challenges where they were learning variations of chopsticks to play together as families, and it worked. I switched out the material every 2 weeks and had them send me videos of their playing, and I would occasionally respond to them. But it was fantastic. It wasn't perfect, and by the end of the 2 months, no one was practicing. But for the first 6 weeks, it worked really well. And it made me realize that there is more than one way to share resources with families and to provide support for them in lessons. Usually it is us sitting down with a student on a weekly basis, but sometimes life throws us that curveball. A family member gets sick and requires our attention. We need a mental health break. We want to go on summer vacation, but we can't afford to take that much time off without income. I call this a virtual studio, setting up a password protected area of my website and allowing that section of my website to keep my studio running. I did not spring it on parents. I will say that. I introduced it the previous spring and we used it alongside lessons. And then when I reintroduced it for the fall, there were 0 complaints. There weren't any questions even. It worked really well. I'm going to show you a couple examples of how you can use your website to support this kind of option in your studio. We're going to start actually with Ashley Radcliffe's website because she has more of a simple version of a current student page here. So if you go to her current students page, you can see that she's got her student login for My Music Staff, and then she's got a few student resources listed here. So Sprout Beat Leap, and Theta Music Trainer. Those are 3 sites she uses frequently with her students. So you can click on these circles and go straight to the resources. So this is a great way if you use things with your students repeatedly, or you want to share even some YouTube videos of, of performers, or you're doing a unit on Beethoven, or some area of music history. You can link all kinds of resources in your website for your students. And then I'm going to show you, I don't have my Studio Clubhouse or my virtual studio up and running now. So I'm going to show you a brief video that I made of this to share with teachers back when I had it up and running. I'm going to remove my earbuds for a minute. Okay, and hopefully you can still hear this. Can everyone see this video? Okay, great. So this is a quick 2-minute video, and it's going to give you a tour. This is an example of how you might set up a virtual studio to support your students. So once they log in, they'd be greeted up at the top of the page, and you can see that we're going to be learning Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. This is a piece I taught my students last fall in my virtual studio, and I recorded 4 different levels for them. I arranged the piece really simply, and then recorded 4 different levels of instructional videos. And they are allowed to choose which level they want to play. So some of them want to just kind of be comfortable as they're learning the tune, and some of them really like the challenge, and I let them choose. And then I basically just recorded level 4, the level 4 version, as the duet for them to play along with. And that gives them something structured to play along with and keep a steady tempo with. And also it gives them that experience of playing with a bigger sound. So I just uploaded the audio track here. My videos are hosted on Vimeo. So I get to control all of the privacy and design settings there, and I really like that. And then down here, I just threw in an example of how you could share a printable piece. So Castle Escape is a piece by Daniel McFarlane. I have it has a studio license with it. And so this is just an example of how you might do this. And then I might print out, or I might put together a PDF with steps for learning that piece. And then down here, I might do a practice Hall of Fame, and perhaps my student has composed something and I might share that here, or a piece that he's recently mastered. And then I've got a button here for my families to contact me just in case they have any troubles. I like to be reachable by them, so they feel like if they don't understand something or something isn't working right, they can easily contact me. Okay, I've got a couple more videos. I redid my virtual studio for the Thanksgiving holiday a year ago and shared the Addams Family. I kind of arranged the Addams Family for them as a treat during Thanksgiving. And then I have an example of a folk song week that I did alongside lessons. I will add a couple of those links in the comments at the end of this. And if I forget, someone please remind me. Okay, next up, let's see. Okay, so these are all well and good if you have a website, but let's say you don't have a website. How do you get one? There are a couple of options. The 2 main options are you can work with a website designer, a professional website designer. There are a few things you want to do ahead of time. In this case, you want to think about your budget, and I would recommend planning on it in advance so you can set aside money to do that. And in the meantime, while you're planning on that, you can look at a bunch of designers' work, see whose aesthetic you like, see who you feel comfortable reaching out to, and then have a conversation with them. A website designer should be happy to have a conversation with you and chat about the process. See if you're comfortable with their process. Some web designers will have you submit material as you want to, and they will build your website slowly and just finish it when they have all of your content. And some designers will work on more of a structured timeline where you send all of your content to them by a certain date, and then they turn your website around fairly quickly. Also ask, is there a one-time fee? Do you pay for the website and then it belongs to you? Or do you pay monthly? Are you responsible to pay them for every month that your website exists? Those are some good things to look into ahead of time. The second main option is to build your own website. And the first two things I say here are my two key pieces of advice. The first thing is to choose a platform wisely. I see a lot of teachers asking in places like the Piano Central group on Facebook, what's a great free website platform? And free is lovely, but free might not be your best option with something as complex as a website. In fact, I would venture to say it's not. Building your own website is a very large task. It's daunting. And choosing a website platform that makes it as intuitive and simple as possible for you is well worth every penny you will spend on it. Choosing a free platform might be kinder to your budget, but it's going to be more painful to your psyche as you go along. And then the other piece of that is certain platforms are not as SEO friendly. So if you know that you need more students or you want to be able to use your website as more than just a resource hub for families, if you want to use it as a marketing tool, it's worth paying attention to SEO. And platforms like Squarespace and WordPress are much better for your SEO than platforms like Wix or Weebly or GoDaddy. So I personally, we build all of our websites on Squarespace, and I highly recommend that as a platform for music teachers because I have found that it is the most intuitive and the most user-friendly. And then my second tip is to set aside time each week to work on it. Treat it like you expect your students to treat practice. It is a new skill and it is not simple. You will not build a website in a weekend. In fact, we've had a website course for music teachers in the past. And even though my content is geared specifically to helping music teachers and making the process as simple as possible, it takes most teachers several months to build their website. So if you're tackling this on your own, plan on it taking a while. I would recommend setting a goal of, say, the end of a semester, or by the time fall lessons start, or I'm going to take the summer to build my website, and then put it in your schedule and plan on it taking time. And my third tip is to ask for help. If you know a tech-savvy college student, a former student, or even a tech-savvy high school student, if you have a friend who built their own website, don't be shy about asking if they would be willing to help you a bit. And finally, keep in mind that when it comes to building a website, you will invest either time or money if it's a website that will support your business. Websites will require one or the other, and either one is completely fine. There is no better option, but just be aware that it is a choice between money or time. Hopefully that will help as you're thinking through your decisions. Okay, let's talk about some ways to be found online. So how can you improve your SEO on your own? I'm going to give you 3 really basic SEO tips. And then if you are serious about using your website to get more students, I would recommend going to your website platform's documentation. So if you are in WordPress or Squarespace or Weebly or Wix, Google in their, search in their articles, their help articles for SEO, and they will give you more tips. It will take time, but it will be well worth the time that you spend. It's a great investment in the growth of your studio. But the first 3 tips that you should know are, first of all, include a site title. So you can see this is Valerie McEnroy's website, and this is what her search result looks like on Google: Play Out Loud Music Studio, Corpus Christi. So including the location of your studio, if your lessons are not solely online, is a great idea. It's not necessary, but what is necessary is the name of your studio being right here. That's the most basic thing that you want to be sure is showing in Google. Where you add this will depend on the platform you're using. If you are using Squarespace, it's the first thing Squarespace will ask you for, and they will insert that for you. So when you select your website template, they will say, what is the name of your site? And they will create that site title for you. Secondly, add a site description and page descriptions. So you can see here for this music store, Chesbro Music, you can see that they've got a description of their store right here and the services they offer. And this, again, allows Google to understand more about what your website is about and then match your website to search results. So very important. And page descriptions are the same. They, even though your individual pages will not show like this in Google, you should have page descriptions for each one, and Google will pay attention to those, or all search engines will pay attention to those. Okay. And again, where you find this will depend on your website platform. So look for that in the help articles on your website platform. Finally, my third tip is one that you'll want to do before you build your website, and that is to name your photos. Google has no way of seeing your images. All it has to go on is the information that's behind the image. So your naming your file like this is the first step to telling Google what your picture is about. So if you name it preschool-music-class, that's far more effective for your SEO than an image that says IMG-123. That tells Google nothing about what your picture is of. So name your photos in just a few words. Don't include articles like the or a. Make sure it's super relevant to what the photo actually is, and then separate the words with hyphens. Okay, and finally, a word as you are working on your SEO a bit, the last ingredient that's required to see an improvement in your search ranking is patience. There are so many websites and more being published every day, and it really does take time to come up in search results. So if you are wanting to use your website as a marketing tool, invest time in your SEO, but don't feel discouraged if you see no results, if you start out on page 100 of search results when you first launch your website. That is normal. It takes time to climb in the search rankings. And so you can continue to work on it over time, but just realize that it takes time. You're not doing anything wrong. Just wait, and the more people visit your website, the more Google will see your website as relevant. Okay, that is all I have. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. I would be happy to answer questions if you want to pop them into the box. I am here.
Is it okay if we unmute ourselves and ask?
Sure, or yes, you can either mute yourself and ask or put your question in the chat box, either one.
My quick question about Google is, do we have to pay Google at all for having our visibility up there?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Don't. You can, but no, that is not necessary. I don't do it, and I don't encourage other teachers to do that.
What experience do you have with different online scheduling platforms? So say if I want to list times I have available for an introductory meeting, for example.
Yeah, that's a great question. The scheduling apps that I have found and experimented with or have helped clients with are My Music Staff. Fonz is a really good one, if you all are familiar with that. That's owned by a music teacher in Seattle. I like Acuity, especially if you're considering Squarespace for your website, because Squarespace now owns Acuity, and it's super easy to set it up within your website. And there was one other option I was thinking of, but those are the three primary ones. My Music Staff, Fonz, and Acuity are probably the three that I would look at first. Do you recommend, okay, Jennifer Campbell, this is a good question. Do you recommend using a lot of social media, Facebook, Twitter, not TikTok, to get publicity? Yes, with a caveat. I would say yes if it works for you. It requires being consistent and yeah, kind of really having a plan for your social media. I have always been a bit reluctant because I would rather invest that time in, say, improving my SEO or, updating my website, because my website is so powerful. Social media to me feels a bit more fickle, and if Facebook or Instagram decides to not show my posts in my feed, as happens often now, it feels like a bit of a waste. But I know that a lot of teachers do use that very effectively. I don't know if you all are familiar with Julie Duda, but she is a teacher in Pennsylvania who has a very big, thriving studio, and she creates a lot of music theory games for other teachers. And she does a great job with Instagram. She showcases her games being played. She posts pictures of her students having a lot of fun in their lessons, and that is very powerful, but she is very consistent with it. I mean, she's on there posting multiple times a week. If that's something that you feel like is a good fit for you, go for it. Absolutely. If I had to choose one or the other, social media or website, I would always choose the website. I have control over that as opposed to Facebook or Instagram.
I'm wondering, I don't think we have a call to action on our association website. I'm wondering we should have a button that enables people to contact us directly.
Yeah, if you have a button and a form, then you don't have to post anyone's email address either. It can be more private. Yeah.
Okay. I will talk to Felicia about that, our webmaster. Why is Squarespace, I happen to have Squarespace. Why is Squarespace better for SEO than Wix, Weebly, and GoDaddy?
I think just because they made the decision to really invest in that. Their website platform is SEO friendly, and they have integration with Google tools like Google Business Suite, so Google Email and that kind of thing. I think that they invested in that early on. And so I don't know what that means. I'm not a developer, but I do know that that they paid close attention to that and invested in creating an SEO-friendly platform.
Good. I have another question for you, if you don't mind. Two things. Number one, I'm in the process of developing some instructional materials. A couple of them include online courses. Others just include videos that I just use privately with my students. But if I should want to put a certain number of them, say, on YouTube for free to maybe get traffic to my studio, or should want to actually offer some for pay, like, for example, online courses, what are good ways to do that through one's website? And I do
If
have
you're
a
offering,
Vimeo, by the way.
you have a what? I'm
I
sorry.
do have a Vimeo channel, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. So for free videos, you can simply insert the link to the video right there in your website, and it will pop up. And then conversely, you can add your website link in your profile on your YouTube channel. If you're wanting to do a paid service, there are a few different ways that you can set it up. Squarespace has a members area, which I have used very successfully for course creation and selling. If it's a smaller amount of content, I am likely to just set up a password protected area of my website and keep it really simple. I'm a big fan of simplicity over complexity. So if it's a lot of content or something that you want to keep seriously gated, then the members area is an ideal solution, and you can sell right just using members area. Otherwise, I would do just a password protected page on my website, especially if it's for students. I want to make it super easy for them to access things. Good question. What is the pricing range for platforms in general, such as Squarespace? So obviously there are free platforms. My preferred version of Squarespace for teachers is their business plan, and I think it's around $250 a year. That allows you to use code. So if you want to use My Music Staff, if you want to integrate My Music Staff and have that widget in your website, you will need the business plan. And you can pay for it by the month, or you can pay for it annually. It's less expensive to pay for it annually. And they often offer a 20% discount on your first year if you're paying annually. But if you think of it, and I failed to say this, when you're making your decision about your website, I encourage teachers to think about it in terms of return on investment. If you get even one additional student per year because your website is good, it will far and away pay for a subscription to Squarespace. My Music Staff is a studio management software platform, and it's online. If you look up, I think it's just mymusicstaff.com.
Jana, I have a question. 8 years ago, daughter of a friend asked to set up a website for us so that she could rehearse, practice doing websites. And so I get on it and I realize that pages such as upcoming concerts say 2014. So is there a simple way that we can update it ourselves, or is it better to just start from scratch?
That is a really good question. And ultimately, it's one that only you can answer. But what I would say is if you are able to get into the website and make changes and you feel comfortable doing that, then go for it. If it's already set up and it feels easier to just jump in and kind of learn how to add images and how to manipulate things, move things around and change the text, then again, I'm a fan of the simplest option. But it may be that the website platform is outdated, or she never showed you how to edit in the website in the first place, and she's not available to help anymore. And in that case, it might be easiest to start from scratch.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and share some links here. Okay, let's see. So my virtual studio tour is the top link, and I'm going to see if that's the video that I've already shared with you, or I did another video as well. Then the second link is an article that I wrote about what a virtual studio is. And then the final link is a deep dive into my virtual studio, and it's got some video examples. Oh, I'm sorry, that last link just leads to our blog. Hang on. I'm going to pull up the correct link really quickly.
The first link I clicked on, unless I did it wrong, it said it wasn't available.
Okay, let's see.
I think it was the second one I clicked on that said it wasn't available.
Okay, let's see. Here is the correct link for the final article. So the deep dive into mine. Let's see, what's a virtual studio? The second link should work. I'm gonna link the video that I just shared with you. Oops. Okay, that's the video I shared already. Let's see, does that work? If you click on that Vimeo link, does it take you to that video?
Both Vimeo links say they're not available.
Okay, then I need to tweak the privacy settings, and I will do that as soon as we are finished here. I'm also going to share a link of another way that I set up my virtual studio. So this is the second one, and you may not be able to access that one either, but I will change the privacy settings so that everyone can access that after this. And then finally, I shared a couple of podcast episodes on Leela Viss, with Leela Viss. This one is called Using Your Website to Explode the Limits of Your Studio, where I talk more about creative ways to use your website to support your studio. And then I did a podcast right before that was about my piano teacher expat journey. So feel free to listen to either of those. I've shared a couple of blog posts on her blog as well. Okay. Any other questions I can ask for anyone? Answer for anyone. How to ask. Okay. Go ahead.
So I had put a question in there, like, what is the average price for to hire a web designer to create your own studio, your own website for you?
It can vary. It can start at, you can go to Upwork and find someone for $500. I don't recommend doing that. Beginning web designers will charge around $1,000 to build a website. So if you find a college student who is just getting started, they'll charge around $1,000. And then the prices go up from there, depending on whether you're working with a freelance website designer or an agency being significantly more of an investment. Our entry level, our essentials website, which is the majority of studio websites that we build, are $2,700, and we build them in 2 weeks. If you've got a store or a blog or additional things, then that will change the price. We are on the lower end for Squarespace website designers because we have tried to keep our pricing a little bit more accessible to the teaching community. And you can find people in a wider range than that, but most Squarespace website designers will start around 3,000.
These links that you put in the chat, are they still available after the Zoom is done? I mean, will
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I'm gonna include the chat in the recording, but you know what? I'm gonna copy these links and put them in a document so that Jen can send them to everybody. Let me do that. Let's see if I can do that. I open up a Word document or something. I'm gonna capture these so we can have them.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, that'd be great.
Let me do that.
And if folks have questions after this, if you have a burning website question that occurs to you after this meeting is over, please feel free to send me an email. I'm here to help my fellow music teachers, and I'm happy to answer as I'm able. My email address I will put down here. Oops. Okay.
Let me see if I can do this.
There we go. Okay. So that's my email address. Feel free to reach out.
Okay, email address, hello at Studio Rocket Web Design. Okay.
And I guess one last thing I should mention, my blog, because I kept it for the first 4 years for music teachers, the vast majority of my blogging is about your website and online lessons and teaching. So it is mostly geared toward music teachers, and feel free to read through those articles, and hopefully it will be helpful.
Great. Well, let's give Jana a round of applause for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a lot of information there, and I'm glad that you have all the links and everything. That'll be great for everyone to look through. All right. Well, I guess that covers our meeting, and I'm so thanks for also Jana for offering to be available even after the meeting, because I'm sure a lot of us will be sitting around thinking, oh, I wish I would have asked her that, so thank you for making yourself available, and especially from a different country, how blessed we are for that. So thank you. Yeah, that's amazing. All right, everybody, unless there's anything else we need to be talking about, I think we'll call it a meeting, right? Jonathan, do you have anything?
Do we need to touch base, Miriam, Jennifer, and I, about anything? Oh, can you hear me?
Maybe just for a minute or two.
All right,
Sure, that sounds good.
I'll stay on. I'm going to stop the recording.
All right.